Hello, everyone. This is Jeffrey Hill, Executive Chair of the Satellite 2024 show. Before we jump into this episode of On Orbit, I just wanted to let you all know that registration for Satellite 2024 is open. Satellite 2024 will bring 15,000 professionals and enthusiasts from across the space and satellite industries together to celebrate the evolution of satellite technology. The conference takes place March 18th through 21st, 2024 at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center. We will have speakers posted on the website within the next week or so. We already have some of our general sessions and keynotes lined up, and we're very excited to reveal those. So once again, if you're interested in attending Satellite 2024, visit satshow.com. That's satshow.com. Registration's now open, and we will be posting details of the conference program shortly. Thank you so much, and enjoy this episode of On Orbit.
With 500 million downloads and 950,000 ratings at an average rating of 4.8 stars, MyRadar is one of the most popular weather apps out today, putting weather information directly in the hands of its customers. But this isn't an ad for MyRadar. It's the story of how and why a popular mobile app becomes a space company. MyRadar has orbital ambitions, and it's working on a satellite constellation to quickly alert to wildfires. In this episode, I interview MyRadar CTO Sarvesh Garimella about how and why the mobile app is investing in its own satellites. The story turns the traditional Earth observation model on its head, as MyRadar is already an end user of satellite data, and now it's purpose-building satellites for its own needs. We also talk about how a weather app helps its users deal with climate change, how AI models are impacting weather forecasting, and why a digital-first weather company still invests in the power of real human meteorologists. I'm your host, Rachel Jewett, and you're listening to On Orbit, the podcast that asks, what's our future in space? Hi, Sarvesh. Welcome to the On Orbit podcast.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining. So I wanted to kind of give you the background of why I invited you on the podcast. So I get a ton of PR emails, and I try to stay up on top of everything that's happening in the space industry, but there's new companies every single week and there's so much happening. And the other day I had an email from MyRadar, and it talked about you all had won a grant from NOAA, and it was talking about wildfire monitoring, and it said that you all had your own satellites. And I was like, what? I did not know that MyRadar had satellites. And one of the things I'm really interested in my work is companies that are not space companies, whether it's a app or whatever, that decide that they need space and they need their own data from space, not just using government satellites. So that's why I invited you on, and that was a lot for me. But before we dig into any satellite stuff, can you just tell me about yourself and tell me about your work as CTO of MyRadar?
Yeah, sure thing. So my background, I did my undergrad in planetary science and environmental engineering, and I have a PhD in climate science. And over the past several years at MyRadar, I've been leading the research and development efforts and developing new innovative products on the AI side and on the nowcasting side. And most recently on the satellite mission, been helping put together the capabilities and plan for executing our Pathfinder mission that we're on now.
Awesome. So you know a lot about climate and AI. Those are awesome topics. So I looked at the App Store today, and I saw that MyRadar has more than 50 million downloads and 950,000 ratings, and the average is 4.8 stars. So how is the app so popular? And tell me, what sets it apart from other apps and what your users love about it?
I think the mission of bringing actionable information into people's fingertips and giving them an opportunity to make better decisions as a result of it has led to a user experience and choices in how we design the app and app features that cut to the chase and get you the critical information you need. The first thing you see when you open the app is the map view. And as far as a situational awareness product or getting your bearings, it's an easy way to get right to where you need to in terms of both the information and the outlooks that you might need for the choices you need to make.
Okay. What's your user base look like? Is it like everyday people trying to get the weather information for their day? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we, with the 50 million downloads, we have a quite broad range of users who have the app for just kind of everyday, normal, what's the weather going to be like? Should I pack an umbrella? To more serious use cases like, hey, I need to figure out what business uh, effects I need to worry about the weather playing a part in. So
Mhm.
we surveyed our users, and about 20% of them say they use the app for both uh, personal and for business use cases.
Okay.
So there's a quite a broad range, but
Okay.
aviation is one of the feature sets that we focused on in the past, and yeah, general awareness.
Okay. Yeah, that's funny you mentioned aviation. So I live in Cincinnati and there were huge storms over Ohio today. And my husband actually had a flight this morning. And when he was on the plane, they were like waiting on the tarmac for a fair amount of time. And the pilot made a comment that was like, your guess is as good as mine when we're going to leave. And I was like, he told me that's what the pilot said. And I was like, really? The pilot doesn't have better weather information than I have? That sucks.
So yeah, I mean, one of the fun things about weather is that there's a predictability limit. So when you're talking about thunderstorms or severe weather, you can say there's going to be severe weather in the area, 8 hours or 12 hours or 24 hours in advance, and then you can dig down to more granular details the shorter lead time you have. But the analogy that I like to use is it's like trying to say, where's the first bubble going to appear on a featureless boiling pot of water?
Mm.
And if you turn your oven on, your stovetop on, the first bubble might appear in one spot, and then you turn it off and you repeat the experiment, and it might appear in a different spot. You know that as you add heat to the pot of water, you're going to start seeing the the convection
Bubbles,
bubbling
yeah.
up,
Yeah.
but exactly pinning down where it is, it's a stochastic problem. So it's there are predictability limits as to how precisely you can make forecasts and understand
Okay.
how
Yeah.
systems are going to evolve.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so I'm assuming that my radar, before deciding to put up your own satellites, I'm assuming it uses satellite data from like NOAA satellites. Can you talk to me about how the app has and has previously used satellite data?
Yeah, totally. So we use a variety of different satellite data sources from different agencies and different governments, and we try to blend that all together in a seamless way so the users, have a sort of cohesive product at the end of the day. And so we like satellite data because it gives us a broad coverage range of information, so we can present intriguing visuals for weather systems and patterns as they evolve across the country, and also for alerting use cases. So one of the cool applications we are using NOAA satellite data for right now, and eventually we'd like to use our own as well, is for wildfire hotspot notifications.
Okay,
And so
yeah.
um, a lot of the fires that people hear about being reported, that's someone with a pair of binoculars out in the field reporting it. But if we can use an automated tool or an automated system to get that notification slightly ahead of time, that uh, time advantage is huge,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to wildfires.
Yeah, absolutely. So how does my radar work with wildfires currently? Like, does the app, are you tracking wildfires? Like, I guess
Yeah,
I don't think
so
of
we are.
wildfires as weather.
So yeah, we started as a more weather focused set of use cases, and then we have evolved to be a more multi-hazard platform. So wildfires, power outages, anything that you might need to plan around situational awareness wise, we're trying to incorporate. So the original mission was keeping you ahead of the storm, but through that, we've found our mission to be more broadly to bring actionable and timely information to a broad range of stakeholders that facilitate situational awareness and informed decisions. And especially if you have multiple hazards occurring simultaneously, as we saw in Maui, the winds that we saw in Maui a couple weeks ago were driven by a hurricane that was nearby, and that was a big factor in determining the severity of the eventual disaster. And so we found ourselves trying to build tools for these multi-hazard situations, and that kind of led us to broaden our mission to go beyond just weather and rain to
Yeah.
a broader set of hazards.
Yeah, that's interesting. So tell me about the decision of MyRadar deciding that it needs its own satellites. Like, what data did you not have that you needed to get from space?
So the timeliness and the latency for our operational mission is what really drove that decision. So right now you can get geostationary data that comes in every 15 minutes, but the grid sizes for those products are like a kilometer or bigger. And you do get low Earth orbit satellite data that's got higher resolution, but that only comes in, once or twice a day. And the goal was to have sub-hourly alerting for the hazards that might be that our users might be facing. But the traditional path, the traditional satellite mission that might cost $10 billion and 10 years to get off the ground was no longer cutting it to get timely enough information and regular enough information, especially as we live in a changing climate and hazards are evolving on timescales and length scales that are shorter than the 20th century platforms that governments have been planning for. And so the operational mission led us to wanting to send alerts directly from orbit, because that's what we do. We're not building an almanac. We're not building some long-term scientific record of how the climate is evolving. That's NOAA's and NASA's mission. And we wanted to close the loop sooner. It's not as useful to hear that your property is under fire danger a week after the fire has passed through, which, if you're waiting for the highest quality image or the science quality data to come in, the latency is often too long for making decisions in real time. So we wanted to be able to send alerts about hazards globally and in a short time frame, short enough for people to actually make a decision.
Yeah. So I'm guessing as the CTO that you were part of those decisions. Like, what was that like? Were you like, I think we need to launch satellites? Like, how did that happen?
Well, with the new space economy, the cost of entry has dramatically reduced. And so, it started as a side project, similarly to how the app started in 2009 as a side project, saying, hey, this is something neat. We can see if there are features or products that we could build off of this. And we launched our first prototype in 2019, and we launched 3 additional prototypes in 2022. And, piecing everything together, we realized, hey, we could actually do this. This is something that we have the capability of and competencies in house to be able to put together this type of mission. And the launch costs coming down, and the new space economy proliferating launch providers and integrators, and having this whole ecosystem to plug into. If we were trying to do it all from scratch, it would be untenable. If NASA and the big aerospace firms were the only ones with pocketbooks deep enough to do this type of mission, were the only players involved, I think we would move a lot more slowly. And so it's really exciting to be part of this new space economy.
Yeah, I feel like that's a success story of, like you said, the new space economy and the democratization of space, that a company sees that they're able to get into that at a price point that makes sense for the business. So did you, I think I understand you guys worked with Alba Orbital on the satellites. Okay. Did you build the sensor in-house, or did they build it for you? How did that work?
So Alba Orbital was our integrator. So
Okay.
we built the satellite entirely the
Oh, wow.
prototype entirely from scratch
Okay.
in-house. And then we handed it over to Alba that put it into their deployer that was put onto an Electron rocket that Rocket Lab launched. So it's lots of pieces along
Yeah.
the supply chain. So
Okay, so you
we're
guys
the
built your
payload. Yeah.
satellite.
hmm
Wow.
Yeah.
Um, was that just like you said, it was like a side hobby, so you guys didn't hire like a satellite engineer, you were able to
So we do
figure
have a
it out?
satellite engineer.
Yeah.
And he's great, and we've been using his designs and
Yeah.
the original prototypes to hit the ground running for the commercial mission. But yeah, the first proof of concepts were sort of hand soldered, hand built, custom units to prove that we could and see how it would go, and then based on the successes we've had and the field testing and the lab testing and other steps along the way, we've gain confidence and have our sights set on the first commercial versions of our satellites going into space middle of next year.
Okay. Okay. So you have 4 prototype satellites up right
Mhm.
now. And how many do you think you're targeting overall?
So the first of the 4 has since been decommissioned, and
Okay.
the 3 that we launched last year, they've already served their mission, and so they're still up there, but we're not actively pursuing more beyond the subsystem testing that we already accomplished there. And so we have 2 pathfinders that are planned for the middle of next year, and that's what we have NOAA funding to perform this mission. So one of the cool things about our satellites, the commercial versions of the HORIS, or hyperspectral orbital remote imaging spectrometer, is that it has onboard AI, and it helps us shrink down the form factor and still be useful, because our satellites can tell us what they see instead of having to show us what they see. And anyone's ever sent a text message instead of trying to download an image or something on their phones knows how much easier it is to send just a few words than it is to capture a whole data set and send it down for a given potential hazard.
Yeah.
So we have a low power mode on a context AI that's always on, always scanning. And when it detects an area of interest or something that, hey, this is something that we should analyze more closely, it kicks on into high power mode, turns on all of the different sensors, collects data, does some processing, and then decides whether to send an alert. And then we can relay that and have that turned around in an order of seconds to minutes, and not hours or days,
Yeah.
which is what we currently
That's really
would
interesting.
find in traditional platforms.
So will they be focused on looking for wildfires?
So for the Pathfinder mission, the initial goal is to collect training data for the wildfire use case. So we have used existing satellite data to pre-train the models that we're going to be flying on these first 2 satellites. And so this mission is to collect enough training data that we can refine the models for our specific sensors and our specific geometries and considerations to make it high enough quality that we can start doing the autonomous alerting for the eventual constellation. So phase 1 was to do the laboratory and field testing, and we did radiation testing and made sure that everything worked together on a engineering prototype. Phase 2 is the orbital demonstration and collection of training data for the eventual constellation, and then subsequent missions would be to launch the larger, eventually 150 satellites or so for sub-hourly coverage
Okay. Yeah.
globally.
Awesome. And the funding from NOAA shows that there's also government interest in that kind of rapid access to data.
Definitely. So we are a NOAA Weather Ready Nation ambassador, and that was the topic area that we submitted under for this NOAA project. And we rely on NOAA data for everything that we all the feature sets that we have has some NOAA data in it, and so we rely on them for a lot. And it was really validating to see that they recognized the importance of the mission that we're trying to accomplish, and they have a very stringent technical evaluation, and it was a good sanity check to make sure that, hey, the science and the fundamentals that we are needing to meet in order to take on a mission this ambitious have been validated by a panel. It's peer reviewed.
Yeah.
It's got a stamp of approval, which is a big step in the journey.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's ambitious. I feel like I've been seeing more, like, I don't want to say it's a trend, but it's like a few years ago there were not that many like commercial hyperspectral satellites. And I just wrote about today, I think it was Orbital Sidekick released some of the first images from their hyperspectral. So that's an interesting like type of Earth observation data that's getting more attention lately.
Yeah, I think hyperspectral data is really cool because you have a lot richer data set that you can tease information out of. But doing hyperspectral sensing on a CubeSat and satisfying operational constraints is really difficult because you have too much data to downlink. And by the time
Yeah.
you've downlinked it all and processed it all and have an idea of what signatures to call out, the phenomenon is come and gone. And
Mm.
um, other hyperspectral capabilities and providers might be useful for land planning or longer term use cases if you're trying to plan for the season. But if you need to know uh, for the next minute or the next hour or the next day something that a piece of information that would really affect a decision, do I fortify? Do I retreat? How do I handle the latest information um, and put that into my decision tree? Uh, that is not a use case as well served by the types of players that are already out there and are
Mhm.
trying to put hyperspectral sensors onto smaller satellites.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's like a fire situation, you
hmm
need that information as soon as possible.
hmm
Yeah. Um, so I think you have a PhD in climate science.
hmm
Um, do you see this move to put up satellites to have more rapid access to information as part of how MyRadar is like helping its users deal with the impacts of climate change? Like, how do you
Absolutely.
see climate? Talk to me about how climate change is part of this.
So my training and my background is in making measurements of the Earth and environment that are remote and hard to collect. So taking instruments to mountaintops or on airplanes and collecting ice cloud measurements or extreme environment measurements. And that's what got me interested in coupling AI to these types of platforms because they generate more data or they generate harder to tease out patterns than would be practical to try to process in traditional ways. And so extending that personal experience to addressing the gaps that we have in a changing climate, the observational capabilities that are out there right now are not sufficient to meet the needs for how quickly and how widespread these various hazards are going to play out in the 21st century.
Mm,
We have limited resources. Right now, most of the fires that are reported are from someone on the ground, and you know because of climate change, we might have 10x or 100x the number of fires, but in a similar time frame, we're not going to be able to 10x or 100x the number of firefighters or the number of fire resource managers or number of NOAA employees who are able to parse this data. We're not going to be able to 10x or 100x the number of NOAA satellites or NASA satellites that
yeah.
cost $1 billion each in order to meet this need. And so there's an urgent need for everyday people to make harder decisions more quickly. And our mission is to make that decision making more informed. And so, in a changing climate, that is a harder set of tasks that we're asking everyday people to take on. And so giving them the tools to be able to accomplish those tasks and do so in a way that's safe and able to meet the needs of their communities is something that's really important to us.
Yeah, I think that's amazing to, like, it takes something like an app that already has a strong user base to put better data in the hands of everyday people who have to make decisions about the things that are happening around them.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why we decided to vertically integrate and launch our own satellites, because the eyeballs, the reach is something that we already have with the app. And so once we get these capabilities into orbit, getting it in front of people, which for if we'd taken the approach backward and started as a space company and trying to make the data more applicable, that's what I see everywhere else. Everyone is struggling to make their data applicable, and despite the growth of the new space economy over the past few years, the bigger space players, the ones that have gone SPAC or gone public in certain ways, have struggled because of how difficult it is to generalize that type of information. But we've really focused on the situational awareness use case, where we've excelled and we already have products developed, and feeding those products with better information, more timely information, is a clear path for us to improve the quality and quantity of the services we're able to provide.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because that is like a challenge and a trend that the Earth observation sector has to deal with, that they have this awesome technology, but they have to find the customer for it. And that can be a little bit backwards. Whereas if you already are the customer, then you're, having space technology that's purpose built for your needs. So then I have to ask you, why did you not go to a space company? Some of these companies have space as a service and say, hey, can you build this satellite for us?
So in fact, we have explored those options and
Yeah.
done the buy versus build calculus for the various components on the software side and on the hardware side. And the path that we're on right now was the sort of result of trying to optimize that.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So what are some other, I just wanted to ask you more about weather forecasting, and what are some of the trends or changes happening in the weather forecasting market beyond space, whether it's like in technology or how users are interacting with the data?
Yeah, from a technology standpoint, computing power is increasing for weather models to be run in bigger ensembles. So an ensemble is just running the same model with slightly different initial conditions, but 100 different times. So you get 100 different possibilities.
Sorry, I don't know if you can hear my dog. She's like sneezing, and like, I hope people can't hear that, but it's Ivy, folks. They've heard about her before. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. So yeah, the computing power has definitely improved the ability to run more granular models and more ensemble members, and throw more horsepower at the numerical weather prediction problem. And then the other place I think weather forecasting is improving a lot in recent years is through utilization of AI to either improve bottlenecks or to represent various phenomena better. So I alluded to the boiling pot problem earlier. So weather and climate is full of these physical statistical processes where the general trend you can estimate pretty well, but the specific manifestation is within an envelope of statistical probabilities. And so how do you represent that envelope properly? In traditional scientific applications, you say, oh, it's a bell curve, it's a Gaussian, it's a normal distribution. You make this assumption about the shape of the distribution that you're sampling from. Whereas using AI as a heuristic, as the empirical methodology you're putting into these tools, and saying like, oh, instead of making an assumption that it's a normal distribution, I'm going to sample from the real distribution or use an AI technique to draw a relationship between what I'm observing and what I'm trying to predict. You can take these heuristics. There are already, heuristics and empirical approximations that are in a lot of the models that we're using, and make fewer assumptions and have better results as a consequence of utilizing AI and relaxing some of those assumptions. And so the
Yeah.
targeted application of AI within numerical weather prediction is really exciting. And then more recently, pure AI weather forecasts have started to emerge and
Oh, what does that
doing
mean?
end to end. So you um, basically train a model to predict what the weather model would have said. So an emulator. So you train an AI model to emulate the weather model, and
Oh,
that's another application for AI. So you basically don't run the partial differential equation solvers that you would traditionally, and you see how well you take an initial state and evolve it to a future state. That evolution is captured by the AI, and you compare it to the numerical weather prediction answer. And recent results have been more promising. And I'd say if you asked 5 years ago, people would have laughed at you if you said, "Oh, pure AI models could outperform,
mhm.
traditional numerical weather prediction, physics-based models." But now the answer is that it's starting to shift a little bit. So especially for the
So
short-term forecasts.
is that like AI is looking at all of the data you're giving it and coming up with its own prediction, and you're comparing that prediction to the existing weather model's prediction?
Yeah, so you do that. So basically, you give AI all the input data that you would have given the numerical weather prediction model,
Yeah.
and then in a supervised way, you run the numerical weather prediction model forward, and you get the answer, and say, based on this input, this is the answer it gave. Figure out how to map this input to this answer as an emulator, and you're not running the actual model, but it's capturing the dynamics of what the model would have output. So you're running, and it's not always more computationally efficient. I think that's where we are seeing the active research right now is to how would we operationalize something like this, or how do we
Yeah.
generalize something like this? Because one of the nice things about physics-based models is you can sort of understand when and why they break from a sort of basic building blocks standpoint. When you run this same process through an AI emulator of a weather model, then you can struggle with explainability. And I think that's also an area of active research, is to make AI models more explainable.
Okay, that's interesting. All of this, it's hard to understand for not science people. All of this, the evolving AI capabilities, it's just crazy some of the stuff you hear. But that's really interesting. Um, I saw just this week that I think IBM is selling the Weather Channel. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think there's been a big shakeup with smartphones and the consuming weather information on a digital platform or a mobile platform instead of sort of traditional TV news.
Okay,
You,
yeah.
you know, you turn on the 5 o'clock news and you watch the weather forecast, and then that's how you interact with the news. That might have been true 20, 30 years ago, but it's increasingly less true
Yeah.
moving forward. And I think that shakeup is playing out in what you described, and there are new players going for the sort of big ticket weather enterprise contracts. That IBM weather company, those folks
Mm,
had more exclusive access to before,
mm,
but the introduction of new technologies and new capabilities has really made the traditional weather forecasting space really try to play catch up and how to respond to these new players. And I think, the approach we're taking, of course, I will advocate for, and I'm really glad that we have this dual approach where the primary information that we would convey, sort of day-to-day weather general information, you get in an automated form. You can go to the app and look it up and sort of browse around as you would need. And then we also have a team of meteorologists that are available for live coverage during severe events. And we have storm chasers. We have people going out into the field and doing the engagement. Yeah, so it's just having the best forecast isn't enough to save lives. You need that weather information to be engaging in a way that people know how to interact with it, know what to do with that information, and have enough have built up enough of a comfort zone with the set of tools to be able to trust it. And the complementary information that the human meteorologist can put on top of the weather map is really what helps in those severe situations. To if it's just answering questions like, hey, I'm in this county, there's an evacuation order, should I really evacuate? And they say yes, like the person, a real human is nodding and telling you to evacuate, not just some all caps bulletin that popped up on your phone. That might actually cause someone to change their make a choice that's safer than relying on the digital only. And having a 5% better forecast of the hurricane winds is not necessarily going to change that person's outlook or engagement. So we're taking this dual approach, and I think it's been really important to have engagement in addition to accuracy to drive user experience that
is
makes
really
it
interesting.
So that people can
that you're taking kind of like the digital first, it's an app, but at the same time you see the value of the human meteorologist and the connection that people have. So is that coverage in the app? Like, how do users watch those videos or interact with them?
Yeah, we go live in the app, and then we're on YouTube, on Facebook, on all the different social platforms that have live streaming capabilities. So I don't know all the list keeps growing, so I'm not updated on it. But you can but in the app there's a sort of, the bottom center is a play button where it takes you to a gallery of previous videos we produced, and we do daily forecast, weekly forecast, that type of sort of general weather information in addition to the severe coverage that we do.
Very cool. Have you ever gone out with a storm chaser?
No, I've never gone out with a storm chaser as part of MyRadar. In elementary school, when I was living in Iowa, a tornado went down the road that we lived on, and so the school was like 2 blocks. It was a tiny town in Iowa. The school was 2 blocks away from our house, and so like an F1 tornado went down, tore up our porch and stuff. And we didn't, like, the class, we're on the second floor. We didn't have even a big brick building, thankfully, but didn't have time to sort of evacuate, get to the basement. So we were just under our desks, and I just see this debris flying. So I've been up and close.
You've been up and close to the severe weather. Wow.
Yeah, and maybe that's why I work in the back now.
Oh wow, that's really interesting. Okay, well, it's been awesome talking to you. Is there, what's next for MyRadar, or give us some last piece of information to close out the podcast with?
So yeah, we're really excited about the tools and information that people need in order to make the decisions they are faced with. And if we can continue to develop technologies and capabilities to help meet those needs, then it's a really exciting space to be in.